The following program is a Creative Magic Network production.
You're listening to the Frederick Bai Show, where sky is the limit and space is the place. Here's your host, Frederick Bai.
Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome. Come on in, sit down, relax. This is the Frederick Bai Show, and this radio podcast is about unleashing your creativity. We talk to experts. We step into the unknown. It is a magical, inspirational podcast as we chat with charismatic enigmas. That's right, people, artists from around the globe, musicians, singers, radio hosts, business people, photographers, everything in between. I am Frederick Bai, the man of the hour, the man with the power, too sweet to be sour and funky like a monkey. Hey, I sting like a bee, produce sweet honey, and I am pretty. I am your favorite French Canucker. And today we have an interesting episode, a very, very fascinating episode. We're going to talk with a fascinating lady. That's right. Actually, we're going back in time. Freak out. We're talking with #1 bestselling novelist, Jennifer Skutelsky. This is an interview I did a little over a year ago. And I just thought, I took it out. I put it out, it's no longer in the listings in iTunes or anywhere. But I realized, for this week, I want to go back in time. I want to give you this interview again with this wonderful lady who personifies class and talent. She talks about her novel, Grave of Hummingbirds, a mixture of gothicism and mysticism. And Jennifer is an international literary contest judge and award-winning author and former literary agent. She is committed to helping writers around the world align project development with contemporary publishing demands. And contemporary publishing demands. And so the reason why I know you guys sometimes you like to go back in time and from the vault, and I just want to put out the best interviews out there, and this is definitely one of them. I hope you enjoy it. I'm sure you will. So let's get to it right after this. Hey guys, right before diving into the interview, if you have a passion, something that fuels your curiosity, well, on top of getting fascinating interviews with musicians, singers, radio hosts, business people, artists from around the globe straight to your inbox, when you subscribe to our free Creative Magic community, you will get super cool exclusive gifts in return, such as the ebook, Happiness Quotes by the Ambassador of Happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, one of our hosts. And also, this small book is an anthology of 25 inspirational quotes about living a happy life from the inside out. It's cataloged by yours truly, the Ambassador of Happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, and further enhanced by her reflections. She offers information, anecdotal stories, and more to help underscore each contributor's quote. And she also provides suggestions to help you incorporate these maxims into part of your mental landscape. Subscribe now at frederickbai.com. That's Frederick with a C. Bye like bye-bye.com. All right, hello. So we are here with Jennifer Skutelsky. She is our guest today, and she will release her book, Grave of Hummingbirds, on January 1st. She is an award-winning author of Tin Can Shrapnel. Did I pronounce it right?
You absolutely did.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And she's also an international literary contest judge and a former literary agent. I'm glad to have you here, Jennifer.
Thank you, Frederick. It's lovely to be here. I'm glad you invited me.
Awesome. So let's just start off with give us an idea here of your background.
Well, I'm originally from South Africa, and I moved about 6 years ago to the United States. I have an MFA in fiction. I came here actually to study at San Francisco State University, and Grave of Hummingbirds was my thesis there. So I've been a writer for a long time, probably since I was fairly small, playing with letters and things. I've always been fascinated by stories. I'm also a ballet teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been involved in the arts to some degree. I think writing has been the most persistent effort, though. And I'm pretty much focused now on books and everything to do with books.
Okay. And you mentioned that you used Grave of Hummingbirds as your thesis?
Yes.
So how long was that ago?
Not long ago. In fact, it was 2011.
Oh, okay. But so you started to write the book back then?
The idea was inspired by a photograph, and that was a long time ago. But it took the story a long time to take shape. Mm-hmm. And I think it all came together fairly recently. Probably I had to grow as a writer, and the story had to grow and breathe. The characters needed time to grow. Mm-hmm. And that's why it wasn't a quick effort, I must say.
Oh, okay, cool. So your next book is Grave of Hummingbirds, and it's already got a lot of great reviews. I mean, on Amazon and everything. And I as I did a little bit of research on you, I saw that I read a few interviews, and it was labeled as a stunning mystery. It was also as captivating and wonderful. Can you summarize the book for us?
Sure. It's the story of two men who react differently to the death of the woman they love. So one immerses himself in the past that he shared with her, while the other, in trying to reconstruct her likeness, becomes a killer. And the novel is set in the Andean highlands of South America, where a mutilated body is found on one of the slopes. Mm. And in the face and wounds of the winged woman, my protagonist, who's Dr. Gregory Moreno, notes an uncanny resemblance to his late wife.
Okay.
Then a year later, when an American anthropologist visits the region, echoes of those similarities stir and ignite the superstitions of the townspeople. And of course, then also draw the killer's focus.
Okay.
I think the novel explores themes of love and loss and redemption, and it's against the backdrop of a changing rainforest, which has been devastated by drug cartels and a very brutal intelligence agency. So you've got ghosts, tortured ghosts, and strange omens. Mm-hmm. It's basically a work of magic realism, and it's kind of a gothic mystery, really. Mm.
Okay.
That about sums it up, I suppose, without giving too much away.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned Dr. Gregory Moreno. Yes. He seems to be a very, I should say, mystical character. I mean, where did you find the inspiration for him, for the doctor?
Frederick, he came to life in my mind, and he actually grew on the page. He often took me to places of his choosing rather than mine. So although he doesn't resemble anyone I know, he has qualities that resonate strongly for me personally, like a capacity for deep compassion and love and rage that at times makes his life unbearably painful.
Okay. And okay, so who is your favorite character from the book, and why?
That's tricky because, a favorite in terms of compelling would be Gregory because of the depths. His character allows me to explore his depths. Yeah. There's his love for his late wife that has distorted many of his perceptions. Mm-hmm. And in some ways, it's rendered him blind to things of which he might otherwise have been aware or suspicious of.
Mm-hmm. Would you agree that, as a writer, the main characters that, you can create is often just an extension of who we really are? Because I interviewed another author recently, and it's the same kind of thing. Her main character is kind of like, she finds the same characteristics in herself as in her character.
Well, I think that's really interesting, and it's true to a large degree. I think that there are aspects of ourselves that come to the fore, especially if you're writing in a way that's flowing and coming from a place that ideally you don't really understand. It's that creative process. And once that takes hold, I think there are aspects of one's subconscious that come to the fore as well. So yes, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I'm always fascinated by the creative process. I'm always like the way you speak, I hear it in your voice, like you're real. I understand it and I'm sure a lot of listeners understand when you say, the character kind of evolved by itself. That's what you seem to say, right?
Well, yes, and there again, that's tricky, because when it doesn't, and you're stuck with a character that doesn't seem to be moving or really coming to life, as a writer, that's very frustrating.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you ever experience a writer's block?
Oh yes, I do. I do. I don't like to define it really as writer's block, but essentially that's what it is. I don't really find writing easy. It's a very immersive process for me, so it takes all of my kind of heart and soul. And sometimes it really just has to be a discipline. You have to just sit down and write.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and okay, so you say, how do you overcome writer's block? What do you do when it happens?
You sit down and you just thump away at those keys, and it really doesn't matter if you're writing rubbish. You just, it's kind of like a muscle that you have to exercise. You don't want to go to the gym, but you do, and you push yourself to do it. And eventually I think it flows more easily if your brain is kind of, I've actually got to do this now. I better be here. Present in the moment and doing the work.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes you actually do have to force yourself to do it.
Yeah. Because it's hard for a lot of writers, and just I think artists in general, where I think as an artist, like for me now, I'm getting to know a lot of, especially authors now. I think it's hard when you have to put your work out to the world. I believe it's kind of where the writer's block comes from sometimes, where we're afraid of being criticized, and that whole thing behind it, where you have to put it out to the world, and some people will like it, other people will not like it. And I think it's frightening for a lot of writers, in my opinion.
Frederick, I think that's very true, and it certainly contributes to a feeling of paralysis.
Yeah.
I think if a writer edits while they're writing a first draft, that can be almost like an anesthetic. You said editing while writing the first draft? Well, you get, if you watch yourself too closely while you are going through the process of getting a story out, and worrying about what people are going to think of it, and worrying about whether it's going to be a commercial success, and those things outside of yourself can really impede what can be a very delicate process. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. So you need to silence those voices if you can, and that's sometimes a hurdle that a writer needs to get over. Yeah. Just to not worry about what people are going to think, not worry about trends and what's popular, not, just to silence all those, voices that are critical. Yeah, absolutely. And enough for that. You're going to get edited. You're going to get criticized. There will be time enough for that later, but it's not in the initial process of creation. Yeah. All right. So, okay, let's move on. Now, so I asked you who's your favorite character. What about your least favorite character? Even harder question than the other one? No, you've got great questions. I think you're doing a wonderful service for writers too. Thank you, by the way. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I guess one is always tempted to look at the antagonists. In Grave, it would be the governor, the cop, or the killer. But maybe strangely, I had difficulty with Sophie Lawson, who's the American anthropologist, because I wrote her as a fairly passive character. someone to whom things happen. And while I could identify with her struggles, she's to some extent disempowered. She kind of accepts her life rather than claims it. So her power and identity were qualities she had to rediscover in the midst of a crisis, something terrifying that happens to her and forces her to change.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I found her difficult.
You found her difficult?
I found her difficult to write, yes.
Is it difficult because I think sometimes we can associate a passive character to a boring character? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, very much so. She can tip into bland, but my purpose was not necessarily to I want people to care about her, but I think that there are people who are like that. There are some of us who do let our lives just happen. In some ways, I wanted her to be real, not always likable, not always present on the page even. At times she has this kind of absent quality, which is how she is. So I wanted somebody that was real and somebody that we could kind of recognize.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. Yeah. All right. So let me ask you. You created the Andine village of Colibri. Is that pronounced right?
It's the village of Colibri, and Colibri actually means hummingbird in Spanish.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, it's a French word too. So anyway, yeah, it's a bird in French. So I'll check it. Maybe it is a hummingbird. Actually.
Well, all the names of the places in the book are bird names.
And why? Where did you find that inspiration to and why the village of Colibri? How did it come up to you? How did it come to you?
I suppose it's a blend of various sensibilities. I mean, there's the South American aspect, and there is my own African sensibility, and then living in North America, there's a bit of that too. I wanted to set it in a place that was of my own construct, that could reflect sort of the notion of the outsider trying to live in a place that is no longer familiar or isn't familiar at all. And the reason I created a fictitious place was because there were elements that will be unfamiliar to everybody, if you know what I mean. It's a strange, fantastical place.
I think Go ahead.
No, that it just that it doesn't faithfully represent a real place.
Okay.
There are aspects that do. But the sum of the whole is a place that I made up.
Mm-hmm. And that most people will relate to. That's what I hear in you.
I hope so. Because, that's what world building really is about. World building is about creating a believable place that, however magical or fantastical it gets, it comes across as authentic.
Yeah. There are writers who are able, I think maybe you fall in that category, where they're able to create a world like, sci-fi, fantasy, like they create, and then you seem to have the writers where they have to experience something to be able to write it.
Yes, it's kind of the old adage of writing what you know.
Yeah.
Which I think is relevant. I think that if you're coming off a base of things that are familiar to you, and that will apply to the way you write characters, it will possibly, apply to the way you deal with setting.
Mm-hmm. But that was going to be my question. That was going to be my question. What comes easiest to you? Characters, dialogue, or world building?
Interesting, Frederick, because in the case of Grave of Hummingbirds, the actual an issue came to mind. It was a a photograph, sorry, that I saw in a magazine when I was sitting in a doctor's office. And it was an image of an Andean condor that was tied to the back of a bull. So that image always stayed with me, and actually it still springs to mind at odd moments. So I knew it wasn't going to let me go until I explored it. Mm-hmm. So years of research followed, and the characters and setting and plot actually developed around that.
Okay.
But I think that's unusual for me. Probably once a character takes hold for me, and assumes breath and life, the writing is actually easier because they then start to tell you what they're going to do and what they want to do. And that's not always the same as your intention.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you. Yeah. So you would say that there's not it's not like setting or character building and dialogue. It's not one or the other that comes easier to you. You would say that it's just, like you said, you see a photograph, then character kind of, you get inspired by a character and kind of goes, it kind of develops itself, right? So there's not something that comes easier or not. That's what I'm hearing. I don't know if I pronounce it right, but.
No, yes. I think it's a synthesis of those things. It's difficult for me to separate them out. I suppose if you kind of had to say to me, you must separate them out, then I would actually say character is a good place to start. Okay. If you have just the idea of a character in mind, and when you go to sleep at night, you think of that character, or in moments of stillness, aspects of that character come to you, and you start writing those aspects down, and the character begins to form. I think then you have the makings of a story.
Mm. Do you meditate?
I do. Not as often as I should or as I'd like to. But in fact, I'm trying to do more of it because I think it's the secret to a lot of things. We're very stressed and very rushed, and there are so many stimuli coming at us now, especially with the internet and computers and laptops and phones, that those times of stillness are quite elusive. So I think we have to seek them out, and I try to.
Are you somebody, like, for me, I'm beginning to have a hard time, I should say, because, when I think when you're a writer or you build an internet platform, you try to be on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on all these things, and then like my cell phone now is almost becoming like I'm always kind of looking at my cell phone, and I think it relates to what you just said, where it demands a discipline to kind of, okay, no, I'll put the cell phone away. I'll put all that stuff away for 30 minutes. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to meditate, or I'm not going to think about, I'm not going to do all of that stuff.
Well, may I ask you, do you meditate? Do you manage to find those moments of stillness?
Absolutely. And to me, in the morning is the best. I realize creatively, I don't know, there's something about the morning for me. I'm an early riser. And I do it 30 minutes now, every morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Patrick, do you write? Are you a writer, or do you?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, I finished my first book. I wanted to be edited and stuff, and I just wrote 2 other books that I really want to publish in March, in that time period. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's great. I mean, it sounds like I should turn the tables and start asking you some questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, what have you written? What kind of books do you write?
Well, basically, it's about the search for love and life's purpose. That's basically the main theme of my books. I love those subjects.
And is it kind of genre based, or are you?
Yeah, I'm gonna plan on make it. There's romance in it. So I was going to go into a romance genre.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Brave man.
Well, no, yeah, to be honest, I'm not a specialist of the market. Like, I really, I love to study the market, like, but that's recent. That's been like in the last year, I should say.
Yeah.
But, yeah, because why do you say I'm brave?
Well, I think romance is, it's big and it's demanding and it can be very, what shall I say?
My concern, I have to, okay, sorry, I cut you off.
No, carry on. Go ahead.
My concern is that I don't want to, because it's not like romance, let's say, like, I don't know, Twilight or whatever, but because I understand that my worry is that women, I think, want romance to be written by other women. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I think there are men that write romance.
Yeah, that's true.
I think some of them pretend that they're women.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, with pseudonyms, because I think there is an expectation, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that women do romance best. I don't know if you read a lot of romance, but I take my hat off to romance writers. They go to places that are difficult to navigate navigate well in writing. They handle erotica very well. They take chances. They take risks. They get to the heart of things. No, I think there are some magnificent romance writers.
But to be honest, like my favorite author of all is Paulo Coelho, right? Okay. The Alchemist. I mean, this guy is just, to me, is amazing. So, and I like Stephen King, and I like William Young, like The Shack and all that stuff. So I don't know. It seems that my creative juices kind of, like, there has to be a woman in there, and there has to be I kind of instinctively, there has to be a love story in it with,
Yes, but it also sounds like you lean towards inspiration.
Yes, absolutely. So that's why I always say, what my book about it's about the search for love and the search for one's purpose.
And those are big themes.
Yeah, and I to be honest, I'm not sure how to, like you asked me which category am I. Well, I kind of just went to romance because I don't know. It's not just inspirational. It's not just romance.
I resist categories. I mean, I tend to be a hybrid myself, a hybrid author, or all my books tend to be hybrids. But booksellers need to know where on the shelf to put a novel. So it's one of the practical things that a novelist has to take into consideration. Once the book is ready, then your publishers and your booksellers are going to want to know where your book belongs or where it fits. So I think that that is why we have this whole emphasis on genre. But there are a lot of people now who are more hybrid oriented. So I think you must just write the book you have to write.
Well, that's what I do, and once there'll be time to publish it, and I'm pretty sure the right terms or genre will come up to me. But for now, I say it's romance.
Okay. Well, let's see where it takes you. That's exciting.
Yeah, that's exactly that. All right, so let's continue the conversation. When you're writing, I'm curious, do you use any celebrities sometimes or people as visual inspiration for the characters? I know that you said that, sometimes they just come to you, right? Like yes. This book. But sometimes, I mean, that inspiration, does it come from celebrities or people you know?
Well, in the character of Anita, who's Gregory's late wife, I thought often of Penelope Cruz. I'd seen her in Captain Corelli's Mandolin and that movie, Vicky Cristina Barcelona. And probably in all her movies, she struck me as the perfect visual inspiration. Bonita.
Okay, so you do. So you do. I mean, would you agree that inspiration just can come from anywhere?
Yes, and I think it sometimes comes from really surprising places, and you've just got to let it in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You have to be aware. I think you have to be present. I think that's what you mentioned earlier. When it's kind of, be in the moment.
Yeah, and also trusting something even if it seems odd.
Yeah. So do you get that sometimes where, okay, you get kind of a haha moment, but your mind goes, well, what is that useful for? Why am I gonna, that's what I get sometimes. The inspiration is there, but my mind kind of fights it for a while.
Yes, I think that's a process of trust that we have to work at.
Yeah.
That trust is really important, because I think as human beings, we tend to dismiss a lot of things we don't understand. And sometimes we don't have to. Sometimes we just have to follow something wherever it takes us. And understanding may come and maybe it won't. It doesn't really matter. It's the engagement with that exploration that I think is so invigorating and inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Why did you choose? We talked about genre just a few moments ago. Why did you choose to write? I mean, okay, Amazon says your mystery, it's gothic, it's supernatural genre. Why did you choose those themes? Or why did you choose those categories? There you go. Why do you label your books in a way in those genre?
Well, I guess I'm not afraid as a writer to go to dark places, and I'm really intrigued by puzzles, which is something that appeals to readers who like mystery.
I'm sorry, by whom?
Puzzles intrigue me, and I think suspense and tension are really part of that too. Okay. So Grave of Hummingbirds is a gothic mystery because it unfolds in layers in a strange setting and also explores themes of romance and death or murder. So I really go to places in my mind that I wouldn't dare to in reality. And I think that's what writers are all about, storytellers. Can go to places that you shudder to think of. I mean, if you think of some of the movies that we see, for example, like Crimson Peak, and some of the real, even horror, some of Stephen King's work. Mm-hmm. Okay. He's a nice guy, I'm sure. He goes to places that you can only shudder at. And as I say, I'm not afraid to go there. There are things that I pull back from and that I'm not willing to explore. I can't bear the torture of animals or children, or I have trouble with torture and a lot of horror. But mystery is great. Mystery unfolds in ways that keep you hanging on. And hopefully it all comes together in the end. Maybe a couple of threads left for the reader to figure out. Mm-hmm. It's fun. I like it. It just pulls me in.
When you started to write, did you struggle with what we talked about earlier? Like, which genre am I in? Like, did you struggle with that question, or?
I suppose my work really is literary fiction, so.
Okay, I get it.
I did struggle with having to pigeonhole it, into a really specific niche. But I think I naturally gravitated towards the dark and the light, and the way the two play against each other. And, the themes of solitude and death and redemption in a way as well. So I suppose I naturally gravitate towards mystery, or towards gothic mystery at any rate.
Okay. Give us an interesting fun fact about the creation of your book?
Okay. So there are lots of ups and downs in writing, and at my lowest, when I thought Grave might never get published, or I got lost in the editing process, on more than one occasion when I was like bouncing in the dirt of rock bottom, actual real hummingbirds showed up. Yeah.
Wow.
And that was actually a spiritual thing that happened, because a single bird actually once played with my hair.
With your hair?
Yes, when I was watering the garden.
Really?
He came up behind me and he sort of rummaged in my hair with his little beak very gently. And I took a breath and I stood completely immobile, because that connection was phenomenal. It really was. And well, that's a fairly fun, interesting fact about it's certainly about having faith in moving forward, not giving up.
Yeah. Wow. That's special. Do you feel like, cause you talk about, it's a synchronistic, you hear what I'm saying? Moment.
Yes,
right?
Very much so.
I don't know if you can be creative and not spiritual and not believe in something higher. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Are you you're a very spiritual person, obviously.
Well, let me say that I'm a seeker.
Yeah.
I don't have any easy answers to anything. I do believe that there are things we don't understand. And I think that we're all connected. And I think that, unfortunately, we've begun to give separation more emphasis than our kind of a connectivity. So I look for things that are mystical or meaningful to me, and they're there in small signs every day. And I might find it in the way a raccoon, for example, scrambles up a tree because the pugs have come out to play and it's frightened. It's in the everyday, seemingly small things that happen that we find connections with everything. And it's not just with other people. It's with all things that live.
Yeah.
Not to get sanctimonious. I don't mean to get all.
No, it's fine.
But I look for that. It's very important to me.
There's a friend of mine who's a photograph, and I asked him one time, hey, how do you, like, what's the creative process of it? And he just says, well, no, it's just being in the moment. Like, it's just, he said it's capturing the moment. Like, yeah, you got to capture it. And I think it's the same thing it seems the way I hear you is the same thing as a writer. You kind of have to become an observer as opposed to like being always active. You have to kind of take a step back and observe, right? Am I?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that also if you think of poets, a poet seeks to capture the essence of experience, and really even to do that requires being present in the moment. And that's difficult for us now. We're always looking into the past or, facing the future with fear or with worry or with, I'm no stranger to this. I do it all the time. So I have to bring myself back to the present. I have to remind myself that really gratitude is central to how I live in the moment.
Yeah, because that's where your creativity is.
Yes.
What was the biggest challenge during the write-up process of Grave of Hummingbirds?
Well, the challenge to me was I really wanted to be culturally sensitive.
What does that mean?
Well, I didn't want to steal from other people's cultures and claim them as my own. I think when writers write about things like the Holocaust or about deeply traumatic events that they have no experience of, you approach that particular subject matter with extra sensitivity, and it's a different approach. So, I was writing about a region that I know very little about. And it was important for me to work with a synthesis of universal sensibilities. So to explore the common frailties and strengths that make us human, regardless of our origins. So crafting the novel became less about writing what I knew than building a fictitious world I knew very little about. But even in that, I wanted to be sensitive. I wanted to be respectful. And I wanted to be not objective. It was tricky because I wanted to be objective, but at the same time I wanted to be immersed. So that was a challenge. That was challenging for me.
Okay. Interesting. How much time did you need to finish? I mean, okay, so you took 3 years to write the whole story and publish it?
No.
Sorry, 4 years?
Probably my whole life. No, a couple of decades. It's very difficult for me to quantify time where this novel is concerned, because it went through so many reworkings and rehashings. I think essentially the content hasn't changed from its original, but characters have been lost, characters have been added, the protagonist changed. So it's been more than 4 years. And it's been in my mind for much longer than that. And there was a lot of research that I had to do as well.
Okay, wow. If you could change one thing about your novel, what would it be?
I think maybe it would be a little bit longer.
How long is it now? How many pages?
It's just over 200 pages, but I'd spend more time discovering why characters became who they are. Essentially, again, I wouldn't want to change the content, and I'm the kind of writer who really leaves a lot to the reader. Because like we were saying, once a novel emerges into the world, it's no longer the writers, but the readers to make of it what he or she wants to. And I really respect my readers. So it's a fine balance I try to achieve between saying too much, too little, and just enough to engage readers. Perhaps like alter a perception or think in ways she might not have before. And I may have needed a little bit more time to do that.
Okay. What do you hope the reader will get out of the book?
Frederick, I think that's difficult for me to say. And maybe it's just that, perhaps to alter a perception. I think
to what? To alter perception?
To alter a perception, yes. You think in certain ways, and you get used to certain things, and the way of doing things, the way of writing, the way of reading. And I think this book is it offers the reader something that they really haven't explored before. It's going to take some readers. It draws readers into a world that they haven't necessarily experienced before. It may be familiar to some, but I think to others, perhaps the vast majority of us, it would be like, whoa, what is this? So I'm hoping that will be intriguing. I'm hoping that will be compelling.
Okay, awesome. You mentioned that the works of Gabriel Garcia Marquez influenced your novel.
Yes.
How did he inspire your writing style? Because he's an inspirational, I mean, he's a deep writer.
Yes. Well, his literary style of magic realism really resonates strongly. And I think as does his exploration of themes of solitude and loss. Of course, Marquez began his career as a journalist and then went on to become one of the most influential writers in Latin America.
Mm-hmm.
He's
a big influence on Paulo Coelho, I know for a fact.
Yes. And I think on a lot of novelists, with 100 Years of Solitude and Love in the Time of Cholera, achieved critical acclaim across the world. So he's just a giant personality, a giant writer for me. So yeah, I come kind of, let me just say that he was very much an inspiration to the way I approach my own writing.
What is the biggest myth about being a novelist?
That it's easy or that it's quick. The novel is a really demanding master, and it's multi-layered and multifaceted. And a story can require years to settle into its ideal form or even its optimal form. Yeah, I mean, some authors are really prolific and they write quickly, but I don't. So for me, I think there's this perception that, we can all be J.K. Rowling, or not all of us, but we can, look, it's easy. You write a book, it takes a month, and we have NaNoWriMo now, which is everybody writes 50,000, not everybody, I'm making these sweeping generalizations, but people who participate are able to write 50,000 words in a single month, and I admire that so much. That's where the discipline and the participation comes in. It's really fabulous. If it's something to do. It's something to try.
I met a few. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
I met a few of my fellow writers at NaNoWriMo actually like 2-3 years ago.
Yes.
And I think NaNoWriMo is a great thing to connect with other writers, because it's hard, I think, for a lot of people, a lot of writers, to kind of get to know other writers in their area. You understand what I'm saying? But I guess it depends on which area. I mean, obviously, if you live in New York, Manhattan, I guess, there are many writers there, or even California. But I don't know, here in Montreal,
yes,
like especially where the most of the people are French-speaking people, it's even harder to get to English-speaking writers.
Well, I mean, that's a networking thing.
Yeah.
And of course, there are conferences and places where you can meet. But I think the writing is such a solitary pursuit, that you spend days or months alone with your thoughts and your process, and it's a concerted effort to go out there and connect with other people and connect with fellow writers. But I think it's a very important thing to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's a very nourishing thing to do as well, because we know how we feel, we know what it's like. It can be very tough.
Yeah. The other time I was at I was with a few of those fellow writers, and we were like, I couldn't believe where we were like, I think we were like maybe 10 or 12. We all put tables together at a cafe, at a coffee shop. And like, it was like a Saturday evening. And I don't know, I had this epiphany where all these people could be anywhere else at this time with, I don't know, to clubs or with their friends doing whatever. But we're all here with a little laptop. We're all kind of focused. We're all there. We don't really talk to each other, right? Like, we're just all focused on our work, right? and then we kind of chat, and then we go back to our work. I don't know. I just found it like you gotta have a real passion for it. Like it's gotta, I don't know. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, you would probably really enjoy a writer's retreat then, because then you could have a weekend or a few days to do that with it. And I think, retreats can be wonderful. Like imagine a retreat in the Tuscan hills of Italy or somewhere here by the coast, where you can be with fellow writers, writing, sharing each other's work to some degree. I think that's wonderful if you can do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never did it, but something that I will for sure I will experience it one day.
Yes.
So, what is a typical day in the life of an author? Do you have any writing habits? Like earlier, you spoke a little bit about it, but
no.
Yeah.
I'm really bad with habits. I don't. And I really admire writers who are able, they like clockwork. They have a rhythm and they have a set. Maybe I need to do more of that, forcing myself to sit in one place and have a routine. But I don't.
Okay. Does creativity come to you more in the morning or evening, or it doesn't really matter?
I'm not a great morning person, unlike you. Mm-hmm. Night is good for me. Stuff happens at night, and it can sometimes be very late at night. Sometimes I can write very, very late at night.
See, I have a hard time doing it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for some reason I don't know. Maybe it's the morning, really, but.
Well, I think a lot of people feel the way you do.
Do they?
Yeah, morning is you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and chirpy and ideas are flowing and you can settle into the day and it's really early, so the day spreads. That's not me. I'm like, I want my coffee and bed is such a wonderful place. So yeah.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. Do you have other passions aside from writing? Do you have other?
I love ballet, and I love movies. Movies are probably a very big passion of mine.
Doing movies or writing movies?
No, watching them.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I can often binge watch a good series. I love getting lost in a good movie or a good crime series or a good fantasy series. Passion, animals are my passion too.
I read that you used to own a ballet studio and outreach program in Johannesburg, where much of your focus centered around, unraveling unsound muscle memories. What was that exactly? And you were building new and healthy ones.
Yes. Well, you know what ballet isn't really a natural inclination for the body. So, and ballet dancers, I would argue, are probably the world's greatest athletes. So if your training doesn't embrace a very sound technical foundation, building muscles in such a way as to accommodate that level of athletic effort, then you get injured. You get tendinitis, you tear all sorts of muscles in ways that you don't want to. And so and basically your body would be in a position where it's formed a muscle memory that is painful and wrong for general movement or facility in walking or in just the normal way one lives one's or moves through life. So I would have to retrain that muscle.
Okay. Is it the connection between the mind and the body, basically? Like,
yes. So, but a muscle itself has a memory. I know this is now getting a little bit maybe technical or esoteric, but a muscle has a memory. And when it's an unhealthy memory, that leads to other muscles compensating for it. And it becomes, it can lead to things like arthritis, tendinitis, all sorts of painful inflammation.
Okay.
But if you train your muscles, if your posture, and that deals with things like posture, you can actually save yourself a lot of grief later in life if you know how to carry yourself and you know what muscles to use to keep your body supported.
All right. What other services do you provide?
I'm an editor, so I help people bring out the best in their work. I've been doing freelance editing for a while, and I'm quite tough. I'm not brutal, but I'm tough. And you know, I do some cover design and book trailers for people. It's not necessarily my focus. I'm now focusing a lot more on writing, but I do help people with editing.
Okay. All right. So, and where can we find you and buy your books?
Well, that's a good question. I live in San Francisco. The book, my Grave of Hummingbirds is available on Amazon under Grave of Hummingbirds, and it'll launch on the 1st of January. I think it's up for pre-sale now. I have a website, www.jenniferskutelskyauthor.com, and that has all my links to Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest, LinkedIn, Tumblr. Yes, I love Tumblr, by the way.
How do you spell it? I'm never sure how to spell that thing. Tumblr? You said Tumblr?
It's TUMBLR.
Yeah. It's weird to, I don't know, it's hard
I know.
to...
It's kind of quirky, yes.
All right, Jennifer, well, that's it.
It's been really lovely to talk to you, and I'm so grateful. You've been generous with your time and your questions.
Oh, thank you for your time. Thank you very much. I'm honored. Seriously.
Thank you.
I'm very glad.
Keep writing. Keep at it. And I'm going to look for your books.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. And you know what, Jennifer, good luck for your book, for your stuff, really.
Thank you so much, Frederick.
Alrighty, guys. Alrighty. Hey, I know you enjoyed this interview. I just want to thank Jennifer Skutelsky for this interview, even though it's been a little over a year ago that I did this. Maybe she's listening. Who knows? But, you know, I just love this interview and her depth and I just figured out, you know, I'm going to publish it to you guys. I'm going to put it out there again. I think it's a pretty darn good interview, and I had a great time with Jennifer Skutelsky. All right, it's time for me to ride off into the sunset. And right before doing so, guys, if you have a passion, you know, something that fuels your curiosity, well, on top of getting fascinating interviews such as this one straight to your inbox, when you subscribe to our free Creative Magic community, you will get super cool exclusive gifts in return, such as the ebook Happiness Quotes by the Ambassador of Happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, one of our hosts, and also this small book is an anthology of 25 inspirational quotes about living a happy life from the inside out. And it's cataloged by yours truly, the Ambassador of Happiness herself, Maura Sweeney, and further enhanced by her reflections. She offers information, anecdotal stories, and more to help underscore each contributor's quote. And she also provides suggestions to help you incorporate these maxims into part of your mental landscape. So you can subscribe for free at frederickby.com. That's Frederick with a C, by like bye-bye.com. And all right, man. Guys, the Creative Magic Store is open, alive and well. It's designed with meaning, meant to inspire you, tap into your intuition, and add a little bit of magic into your life. go to frederickby.com and check it out. We have mugs, t-shirts, DVDs, a bunch of cool stuff. frederickby.com and click Creative Magic Store in the header. And finally, if you are an Amazon shopper, guys, when you use our Amazon link at frederickby.com, Amazon kicks back a few bucks to the show, and it helps cover production costs at no additional cost to you. No hidden fees, no nothing. So if you like what you hear, you can help by going over to frederickby.com and click the Amazon link in the sidebar for all your online shopping. It is really that simple, and bookmark it to find it easier. All right, that's it, guys. My plugs finished. That's all. And hey, we're gonna have a fascinating interview this Friday too. It's gonna be the special edition of our Friday editions now, where I share fascinating articles and blogs with you guys that I found during the week. So stay tuned, and with this, stay safe, and don't forget, live with purpose, passion, fire, and love. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Frederick By Show. For more information, go to frederickby.com. That's Frederick with a C, by like bye-bye.com.